day, and as an aviator and a space enthusiast, it is absolute pleasure for me to be sharing this talk on your future in aerospace, or rather the aerospace industry has been at the forefront of innovation since its inception. From flight simulators to train pilots to augmented reality to prepare astronauts for their missions, technology and creativity has been the backbone of the advancement of the industry. As we prepare you, the learner, for the future world of work, say 2030, we ask ourselves, what do we need to do to assist you in preparing you with and equip you with the correct skill set to ensure that you are a leader in the new world of work? We are at the cusp of the fifth industrial revolution. And in order for us to understand what sort of careers are you going to follow, we need to understand the complexity of this revolution. Let me take you back, way back before all of us were born, in the late 1700s, where the first industrial revolution was born, if I can say it that way. This revolution was all about mechanization and the introduction of mechanical production facilities driven by steam and water power. The second revolution talks about, we saw the electrification. And do you know that only 85% of South Africans have access to electricity? So the electrification, we started looking at the production of steel and electricity and combustion engines, where there was a division of labor and the mass production enabled electricity. Then we moved on to the third revolution, which is now in the late 1980s or the start of the 1980s in the previous century. We looked at automation and globalization. I always think about, 20 years ago, we still had dial-up and very few people have laptops, but now you see at university, everybody has a laptop, everybody has a laptop at work, and everybody's connected to the internet wherever we go. So the third industrial revolution and the fourth industrial revolution were quite close to one another within a span of 20 years. Whereas we look at the first and the second revolution, it was like 2 millennia apart. But nonetheless, the third industrial revolution gave birth to automation of production. A very popular automation was actually at the start of the production of manufacturing of vehicles, where we had these robotic arms just building vehicles, and IT and electronic services developed in this third revolution. The fourth industrial revolution focuses on digitalization, and that is kind of where we are here in South Africa currently, but we are moving into the fifth industrial revolution. Coming back to the fourth industrial revolution, we looked at things like AI, or artificial intelligence, robotics, Internet of Things, blockchain. We've heard about cryptocurrency. Now, as we are seeing the emergence of the fifth industrial revolution, we're looking at personalization, innovation with the purpose of inclusivity, and the deep multi-level cooperation between people and machine is a conscious thing. The fifth industrial revolution can be summarized as a combination of humans and machines in the workplace. It is, if we look at the year forecast to the year 2050, we're looking human machine in the workplace. The ratio is 1-to-1, which is quite concerning. Are robots really going to take over our world? So you probably have these concerns about, what are we going to do? Is there a significant position for us? Can we work, or are robots going to take over the world? So it's probably highly probable that you will be working with a robot or smart machine. The Internet of Things and big data will provide information to take decisions and help us to make the work better and faster in this revolution. This already started in the fourth industrial revolution, which we are seeing towards the end of the fourth industrial revolution. So there are always roles for humans. So we get the question: do humans have a place of work? Are we going to be taken over by robots? But there's always a role for us as humans, but it will demand significant changes for us. We need to be able to adapt. We need to be agile as human beings. We must be willing to unlearn the old ways. If you look at, for instance, we used to decades ago, people used to wash their washing by hand and hang it up, but now we have machines to do that washing. And but the machines haven't taken over the world. The washing machines haven't taken over the world. So we need to adapt. So using a washing machine saves us time, and we need to be more conscious of that advantages that we have, that we can see. So, but robots are more consistent and they can do more repetitive work. So tasks like chatbots that can take over instead of having a call center, which takes up a lot of space. We can have chatbots that can look at answering questions. Sometimes our customers have repetitive questions or simple questions, and the chatbot will do that initial introduction, and then maybe on a next level, when there is a need for it, we could move over to the sorry, apologies. So, so the first level, the chatbots could look at the first level of interaction in the for customers, for instance, and then at the next level, the human interaction will come. So, the next thing I wanted to point out to you is, what are the trends in the aerospace industry? So there are quite a number of trends in the airline and aviation industry, and also in the space industry. So through biometrics, we are enabling frictionless travel, and the adoption of biometrics is still at its initial stages. People are scared of sharing the information, what sort of information there is with biometrics. By biometrics, we mean fingerprinting, the iris print, and also the facial recognition. But airlines have already begun investigating how can we use these biometrics, such as the fingerprint and the facial recognition. Currently, the technology is being tested at the check-in counters at airports, security, a lounge access, and also boarding of. So this means that queues are shorter, or they go faster. You get faster through the whole check-in process, because this is a source of frustration for most passengers. So to address these through technology is actually an advantage for us as passengers. And so this also means that the physical paper boarding pass will become obsolete, and airlines will use the biometrics to identify passengers. They can also combine this with artificial intelligence. It's a combination with artificial intelligence in order for us to also gather information about our passengers. The humanizing experience of artificial intelligence, the most common, of course, are the chatbots, which I touched on briefly earlier on, and it's becoming to resolve passengers or customers' inquiries. Some airlines are looking at chatbots to leverage the true potential of artificial intelligence. So this means that the airline has quickened inspections, optimized their inventory, especially for parts. For instance, when an engine needs to be replaced in an aeroplane, or if there is a problem with a certain part, if it's picked up on a route or a tire needs to be changed, using artificial intelligence to be able to make the process more efficient. Then one of my favorites, of course, is traveling in augmented reality. I mean, just imagine, you know, we are in the pandemic. It cost us to travel. It cost us to isolate in a certain place, which is not truly your destination. Maybe 14 days you have to isolate due to COVID. When you are traveling, some countries still have that kind of ban on it. And now all you have to do is put on these virtual reality goggles, like you have with your drones, those virtual reality goggles or your augmented reality. You can pop it on and you can go sit in your lounge and get yourself a nice packet of popcorn or whatever you would love to drink or eat, and you sit, relax, and then the next moment you are transformed into a nice island holiday, or walk the streets of Rome or Paris, or experience what it is to walk through a factory that makes all the sweets or chocolates. I love chocolates, so maybe chocolates, or even builds space shuttles. So augmented reality is also used in other areas, such as operations. Doctors use it to practice the simulations for operations as well. So augmented reality plays a very strong role in the setting the trends in the aviation and space industry, or the aerospace industry. So the Internet of Things for the passenger experience, we already see that, as I said, the frustration of standing in long lines or waiting for your bag so now you're connected to, your phone is connected to an app, or it's connected to the internet basically, and you get a notification how long the queue is at the check-in counter, or customs, or what the exact time when your bag will arrive on the carousel. So those are the things that the Internet of Things are being used for, and it's still in the testing phase. Then popularizing of satellites. If you recall the Exolab experiment, it is just how they measure a space, or what they call real estate on a rocket or a satellite. It's a 10 by 10 centimeter cube. So the Exolab is and that's called a 1U, 10 centimeter cube. That's called a 1U, and the Exolab is 2 units of that, so it's called a 2U. So satellites are becoming smaller, 2 or 3 U's, even up to 5 to 6 U's of satellites, and those are called nanosatellites, so that we can send more satellites up more frequently in order to gather more data. And this also, on another level, encourages mass production, and companies are able to lower the cost of the production of these satellites. So monitoring the space data and technology, multiple satellite constellations gather these data. So space data is very important for our environment as well. Geomapping is important. forecasting tidal waves, or looking at a certain area where we need water. Satellites would then map the space data gathered. This data scientists can then analyze this data and say, okay, this is the area where there's water, potential water, and map those water. And space data is also used to forecast weather, especially for those who are traveling, especially for pilots. They need data. They need those forecasts in order to make decisions where they're going to land, which route they are going to take, where there's turbulence on a flight, in order to make that for passenger comfort. Then talking about all these satellites that we are sending, obviously because of all the years of sending all these endless rockets into the space, we have caused a lot of space junk to be floating around our space, and new initiatives are being used to clean up this junk. So there's a lot of advancement in that research in order to clear up the space. And then because we are aware of all the space junk, we need to clean up. There's also a trend in using reusable rockets, because in order to reduce that space junk. Now we're coming to the careers. Let's look at some of the careers that we exciting. Let's look at that center one there, the space pilot. So the commercial industry, due to COVID, about 60% of pilots have actually lost their jobs. And the industry is recovering slowly. So the commercial space industry, being a space pilot, of course, is getting ready to launch, so to speak. So this means that we can fly spacecraft and become it's become a highly attractive job for us to be a space pilot. And as you can see, it will fit into the other careers that I'm going to discuss shortly. Then a drone traffic optimizers, or a drone pilot and a space pilot. A drone pilot is not a pilot that sits in. Traditionally, a pilot would sit in the aeroplane and fly the aeroplane, but the drone pilot sits on the ground and drives it through a computer and manages through the computer. So that is a new skill set that needs to be acquired. There's new laws and rules around that. So that's a very in the last 3 to 5 years, this is one of the highest growing careers that there is in the aerospace industry. So the drone traffic app optimizer would optimize drone traffic. I don't know if you've recalled, but in the UAE, they did a test run about 2 years ago about a couple of drone taxis. I mean, wouldn't that be awesome? You're just transporting from one area to another within I'm not talking yourself, but also packages. Amazon has done it successfully. So these drones are going to be flying all over, and then apologies, there needs to be we need to have some order in the drone traffic or the drone, and manage this drone traffic. Then we're looking, next one is the food engineers. So since the beginning of the space industry, the food engineer has done research on foods for astronauts specifically, as they do research. But now, as we're moving the trend towards space travel, space tourism, we are the food engineer are experts who invent enticing, nice, lovely food, because microgravity does have an effect on how our food tastes and how it smells, and most important, to ensure the nutritional level remains in food. Then the data detective, one of my favorites is the data detective. It sounds very exciting to be a detective, but as we gather all this data, all this data that's generated in real time. They say that by the year 2025, about 30% of the real-time data will be generated. In 2025, 30% of data generated will be real-time data. Data usage is evolving, so the data analyst's job needs to evolve along with it. But so the simple data processing is already, is already advancing, and as we look at the data detective is looking at how data is protected, who sends data where, and if there's a breach or if there's a hacking, like some of us also have a dream to hack someplace, somewhere, somehow. So the data detective would then investigate such an incident, which is really bad. We don't want to hack anything. Okay, and then another interesting career would be the haloportation specialist. So the haloportation specialist, this is like out of a sci-fi movie where people can be are capable of virtually placing from various locations, even on different planets. Wouldn't that be just amazing that in the blink of the eye you will be in another space? So really, it's true what they say, that yesterday's science fiction is like today's reality. Then the space architect would then look at the unique knowledge and skills associated with building structures in the harsh environment in space. Remember, the oxygen levels are not what we require. The moisture content is not the same. There's obviously a microgravity environment. So building structures need to adapt to it, and the space architect would have to design that, just like an architect, but now just in space. So as you can see, these careers are an extension of what we know already. And that's how they're evolving. They're evolving into something that we are going to need in the future, and we need to anticipate those type of careers. So I would like to end off with saying that your future is now. So find your true and unlimited potential through reading and researching and immersing yourself into the new things that technology and the 21st century brings, and unlock the endless possibilities that await you. Thank you very much.